And second is, what are the regulatory changes have taken place? So to provide a comprehensive understanding of recent regulatory changes introduced by regulatory authorities in 2024 and 25 affecting ESOP and other equity-based employee benefit scheme for listed companies and unlisted companies. And simultaneously, what are the challenges, practical queries, how to implement tension points, and what are the different industry practice, what are the real world scenario, how people perceive this. So this webinar will also explore the impact of these changes on corporate governance, investor perception, strategic talent retention, especially for companies that are already listed ongoing for IPO. Now, this program, as you are aware, that we have to stand out an intersection of innovation, inclusion of regulation. So we have to see this. ESOP is no longer optimal. They are essential. Essential for attracting talent, retaining loyalties, distributing wealth, and above all, institutionalizing of culture of ownership. That is the new funda of ESOP, which is prevalent today. Our speakers from industry, they will also discuss this issue, what I am saying, how this is affecting their companies when they have issued the ESOP. Then we have to see the ESOP is no longer compliance footnote. That people should think we have to give ESOP, so we have to follow this law. It is compliance is only 20%, 80% is something bigger. And there are most scalable mechanisms. We have to convert employee into co-owner, innovator, and lifelong ambassador of Indian enterprise. Now, ESOP is about the culture, ownership, and wealth creation. Today, we must view ESOP just not as a legal instrument, but as a strategic nation-building tools. Now, my last point is I am going ahead, the nation-building tools. So this is a bigger thing. Now, the bigger picture is why ESOP matters more than ever. India is projected to be 5 trillion economy. Who will build this? That is another first question. Talent retention is one of the biggest bottleneck, and equity is the strongest glue. So this is the issue, and second is the solution. We often ask, why are not more companies issues ESOP? But perhaps the better question is, why are not more companies investing in ownership culture? That is the right question in place of asking that why companies are not issuing. The issue should shift to the ownership. Now, today we will discuss so many things. And today's our topic is where we will discuss practical insight on how the evolving industry, overview, practical consideration, that will influence and design execution of stakeholder transparency of ESOP framework and its implementation, how to align internal policy and documentation with updated regulatory requirement, ensuring timely and accurate disclosure under SEBI regulation and other applicable laws, key regulatory changes issued in 2024-25 that impact ESOP and other shares-based benefit schemes. And then we will discuss what are the present trend going on this. So before giving some overview, I want to extend my hearty welcome to our learned panelists for today. First, I welcome Irfan Ali. He's a director secretarial in Jubilant Pharmova Limited. Irfan has over 18 years of experience of company secretary with a demonstrated history of working in the pharmaceutical, chemical, and automobile industry. He is skilled in contract management, compliance management, merger, demerger, acquisition, and more. Prior to joining Jubilant, he worked with Minda Industry, DLF, and Moving Pictures Company. I welcome Irfan, and your experience of various companies, and especially in Jubilant, on the issue of ESOP, which you are managing, will help all the participants that they will get information from your side. So
welcome. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Then we have Mukesh Kumar. He is a General Counsel, Company Secretary and Compliance Officer at Rate Gain Travel Technology Limited. He is also highly skilled professional in the field of secretarial, legal and compliance with over 22 years of experience in handling various assignments including IPOs, FPOs, merger, demerger, acquisition, investor relation, compliance management. Prior to joining RateGain, he worked in Halonex, the Hanukkah Agritech, Hero Motor and Chemical International Limited. So Mukesh is also having a wide area of experience, and their RateGain Travel is also issued ESOP. So we will understand from him also the impact of this. As you people are aware that the ESOP is one of the important tool, and which I have just told you. Now the question is why companies give ESOP and why they should. That is another question. So corporate advantage, if you see, there are three agency: corporate, employee and national interest. So if I can just see this, if you follow this, the company, the most important thing is they preserve cash, reduce iteration, and foster productivity. That is the advantage. And promoter ownership mindset and productivity increase, that is directly linked to this. Now, SaaS-based firm, that is a analysis and data that SaaS firm cut cash CTC by 15 to 18% using ESOP. That is a CP survey 2025 has come. Then what employee can get benefit? Wealth creation. Flipkart 100 plus crore-patis they have created. Psychological ownership, that is also there. And long-term wealth creation, that is also one of the important thing. Biocon ESOP buyback distributed 1,200 crore rupees over 7 years. Then come to the nation. Nation democratization, wealth supplies, inclusive capitalism, reduce government burden on pension welfare, strengthen retail investor base and financial literacy, and formalization of new demat accounts, middle class wealth, broader tax base. And that's why startup with ESOP pool grew retail investor count by 22% post IPO. That is another analysis which has taken place. Now the question is, if I can see the ESOP as a 360 degree, that what it should be comparing to the international market and Indian market, and I have analyzed that if I can make the entire ESOP as a 360 degree, the where we stand. Okay, so the standing point which is there, number one, regulatory clarity. And regulatory clarity, and we have taken the universal point. So 60 to 70% listed and 40% unlisted company, that is a medium. So the score is medium. Tax efficiency, tax at sale, that is 50%, that is high because this is a hindrance. Liquidity platform, that high, 30% adoption. Adoption B, all sector, that is 40, that is also high. Mean gap level is high. Digital enablement end-to-end, 60% moderate. Employee literacy, that is 40%, that is also less, and I can say moderate. Valuation support, that is also medium, 60% level we have reached. Payroll integration, auto TDS, 50%, that is also medium. Scheme innovation, hybrid and KPI, that is 50% moderate. And government promotion, that is mission mode 30%, that is also high gap. So I have given you high gap and medium gap and moderate. So these are the three things which are high gap, that is tax, liquidity, adoption, and government promotion. This is a high gap. 30 to 40% is covering, remaining is, but regulatory clarity is coming out. Digital enablement, that is also, and valuation support, these are the level which is medium. But moderate is also is there, and where we have to work out. Now, overall score, if I see India, it is only 50%, and we are just doing halfway to a true ownership economy. Now, if you see the proven model of the world, India and global, then Chirodha, they came out with phantom equity, no dilution, and 2,000 crore buyback without equity loss they have done. So this is the impact which has taken place. Flipkart, ESOP down to delivery level, 100 plus junior crorepati has become, that is a stand out. Razor Pay, annual rolling pool, retention 30% up. That is the impact has taken place. John Lewis, that is a UK company, they made employee ownership trust and 80,000 partner shares profit. Mean they have 80,000 employee and all they have made it trust-based ownership. So everybody is the owner. Just you can understand how much self-esteem comes in this. Chobani USA is another company, 10% equity to all staff, average payout US 200,000 pre-IPO that they were doing. So this is some very, very important proven model has taken place. Now, another aspect is how to select the best ESOP scheme. So you have to evaluate on the regulatory simplicity, tax efficiency, because sometimes what is happening, you are giving some scheme. So scheme, there are so many models are there, but which model is better? So the test has to done on the basis of regulatory simplicity, tax efficiency for employee and employer both, strategic fit, dilution and flexibility, employee fairness and communication, that is another aspects, operational ease, tech, HR reporting, behavioral alignment, ownership mindset, that is another aspects. So whether your scheme is creating all these things or not, that is the important point. Now, if you see all these points, then who is the winner in India and global? This is not this is my own analysis. So I'm giving rider that I have identified. So Zerodha's phantom equity model, which score highest 28 out of 30 for simplicity, taxation, retention, and promoter control. That has come. So now visionary structure for India is next decade. When I told you Zerodha model, so phantom, SAR hybrid, zero dilution, cash settle, that is the future. Exit only RSUs, based only on IPO and M&A. ESOP for gig and shop floor people, tokenize micro ownership, where you are not giving anything, you are giving token based things. Dynamic rolling pool, auto refresh linked to grow KPIs. ESOP buyback trusts providing liquidity and sales listing. So these are some structure which India will see in future, and we will do it in this manner. Now, sometime we are seeing that ESOP you are issuing and the proxy advisory firms are against on this. So when we analyze this, proxy advisory is not against this, they are against the governance aspects. So they see promoter participation. So their concern is that you violate the SPEB promoters more than 10% by different process. So what they want, and they want to communicate, exclude promoter or seek specific related party approval. That is their concern. Excessive dilution. They think that you cannot give to any number. You have to make a cap the pool. No KPI linkage. They are saying you are just investing on time based. You're not making that performance based, that if you do this and EBITDA is increased, then you are not doing opaque disclosure, missing grant list and buyback terms. That is another aspect. They say this is missing. And aggressive buyback. Sometimes they say cash drain is taking place, disguise bonus we are giving, and they suggest setback buyback limit of 2% of net worth or broader policy of the company. So proxy advisory is not anti-ESOP. They only pro-governance, meet them transparency and KPI rigorous, and you convert dissent into endorsement. So the point is you are giving something ESOP. The purpose is they say if you are giving them some performance incentive or company should get something and the development should also take place. Now in the entire process, this is happening. But simultaneously, when Mohini will discuss, we have to see also, we have to check also that now this concept is becoming adoptable. So legal issues are also coming. So Bicon and ITO, because tax aspect is also very important. So Bicon versus ITO Karnataka, ESOP discount, deductible business expenses they mentioned. Ravi Kumar Sinha versus CIT, that is Delhi High Court in 2024. Tax only on face value where shares are locked in. Then KTM 97 SEBI order 2025 promoter ESOP is struck down. Then SEBI draft amendment, founder ESOP exercise allowed 1 year post-listing pull off. So these are the some case law and other things has taken place, which we must follow this. Now, the question is that how the policy and industry policy recommendation and policy should follow this, or what the government should do, what this ecosystem should come out. So, number one, promote phantom and hybrid model, that is for unlisted firm. Create a national ESOP awareness mission like PF and ESI, that is also like UPI government has done, because it reduce burden on government also, it reduce burden on companies also. So productivity and the richness can come to other people. Allow all companies, including PSUs, because their adoption rate is very, very less, and equity-based reward they should provide. Set up secondary sale platform, because that is one area which is missing, trust-based buyback framework. Simplifying and unify taxation, ESOP taxation, that is also very, very tough and very, very important that they have to work out. Now, if I conclude this and all these points which are there, we have to just see that in the Salesforce, I was reading one article on Salesforce, ESOP vesting is tied to certification milestone at Google to upskilling, and equity is a learning journey, not a lottery ticket. So they created, Salesforce has created a ESOP vesting is tied to certification milestone, and Google upskilling. Equity is a learning journey, not a lottery ticket, and they want to create value for this. So we should not miss out the bigger picture. ESOP are not just a way to share wealth. There are ways to build loyalty, transparency, and collective ambitions of all employees. India has the potential to become the world leader in inclusive ownership, but only if we build a right ecosystem now. We build digital infrastructure. This we have seen the success. We built Startup India, that we have seen that more than 100 plus unicorn has created, more than 2 lakh startup registered. Now they are out of that, so many unicorn will come. Let us build the ownership economy of India through ESOP. ESOP are our opportunity to create a million stakeholders in India growth story, one employee at a time. The person who was employed, he will become the owner. So India built UPI, I have just mentioned, for payment. Let's build UPI for ownership. A unified platform where every Indian employee can hold, track, and trade equity safely. That is the ownership economy our 5 trillion vision will fulfill. So next wave in India should be value creation, will not just come from unicorns. It will come from how deeply we embedded the ownership culture in our system, in our economy, and ESOP are the bridge between talent, trust, and transformation. So this is the future which we can work out. Now, before going to the our speaker, I just inform you how we will structure. First, Irfan and Mukesh, both are from the industry. They will share their experience, what they are thinking on the ESOP, what are the things. I have given so many things on this. Then Anshuma will tell, then Mohini will discuss about the practical challenge and implemented insights. And then Anshuma will discuss about the understanding the recent changes in regulatory landscape. And then Sanchit will discuss about the valuation, accounting, and disclosure consideration. And then we will have a question answer. Anybody has any questions, you can write to us. We will give all answer. So before going to the Irfan and Mukesh, I just want to announce that we have our company in. We launched one company in USA, and this company USA launching a CP office in US, United States. So it gives me immense pleasure to formally announce that we are now operational in the United States. We formed a company, the Corporate Professional Inc., registered in USA. So I'll request Shivam, just click open the strategic milestone and proud moment for all of us. It makes a significant chapter to our global expansion journey. So the company's new name is Corporate Professional Inc. in USA, and that will fulfill the need of various aspects. So our first is our expand our footprint beyond our current geography. We are now actively working on establishing our presence in several other key jurisdictions around the world. The growth reflects not only our capability, but also the growing trust and confidence that our client place in us. So our entity in US market brings that comprehensive portfolio of integrated service carefully designed to address the dynamic regulatory and of economic landscape of modern business. We proud to offer. Moni, what are the things we are offering in this?
We are offering the services under the broad, if I talk about. So we are covering the ESOPs, we are covering the evaluations. Then we have the assurance services there, tax advisory, and the M&A and the legal. So these are the broader areas which we are going to cover under the our US
Okay.
office from.
So ESOP valuation, advisory, assurance, legal consulting, and taxation, which is not the country based we are doing. So friends, with the expansion, we aim to contribute meaningful to the US business ecosystem, bringing them not just to service, but legacy of domain expertise, innovation, and unaware commitment to talent. We look forward of building impactful partnership and support business in achieving their strategic goals through our holistic future ready solution. So thank you very much for being part of this occasion, and we are excited that what lies ahead and remain committed to deliver excellence in global basis that is there. So friends, I will move on to this after the good news. I just announced that our knowledge journey is continue. So our next webinar on 20th June will be on the from eligibility to execution, a step-by-step roadmap for raise fund by SME IPO that we will do. So thank you very much. Now I will request Irfan. Irfan, you are in Jubilant, and Jubilant
Yes.
has given global ESOP and RSU integration you have done. So we
Yes.
have done the trust route also. You have done performance-oriented vesting flexibility is there, cap or diversion of guarantee is there, amended on restarted in 2018 plans. All these things you have done. So you have done multiple things.
Yes.
So I just want to discuss with you. Please share your thought, and then I will request Mukesh to share his point of view. Yeah, over to Irfan.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to present my thoughts on this topic. So just let me share my screen. I have prepared one small presentation over this. So sir, I will give a small overview on the implementation of ESOP scheme.
Irfan, your voice is breaking. Just change the network and
And
other
while discussing this, I will also. Okay. So, sir, can I switch my camera so connectivity will be better?
Yeah, you can. You can.
I hope it's better now.
Yes, better.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir. So, sir, as you mentioned that ESOP, the primary objective of ESOP is to retain employees as well as reward talent. The other objective is to make the employees co-owners of the company so that they can contribute well in the growth of the company. At the same time, they will get rewarded through value creation. So when we decide for launch of ESOP scheme, so the first thing comes to mind is the basic structure, whether it's with direct route or trust route, whether it will be a primary allotment or secondary acquisition. Suppose in case promoters or shareholders don't want to dilute their holding, they go for trust route and secondary acquisition. Then the next thing comes to mind is pool size. So we must decide the pool size is large enough to accommodate employees and small enough to avoid excessive dilution in case of fresh allotment. The next thing is grant framework. We have to decide whether the ESOP scheme is for senior management or middle level employees. how much to give to each employee, what are the other conditions. Then the next thing is vesting schedule. Whether the vesting will be on time based, after 1 year 20%, the next year 30%, so on, or it is based on the performance after achievement of certain revenue or market cap linked vesting criteria will be there. And the next thing is the whether this vesting will be graded based on time or cliff vesting. In most of the cases where performance-based options are granted, generally company go for a cliff vesting, that if you achieve certain milestone, then at once all the options will get vested. Then the last thing is the most important for companies, exercise price. So we have to decide whether this option will be on the on face value or market price, or nominal discount, say 5% or 10% discount is there. Then we have to take care of the legal and regulatory compliances. In Companies Act, Section 62, Rule 12 and Rule 16 of Company Share Capital and Debenture Rule. This is the most important for implementation of ESOP scheme. Rule 12 discuss about all the requirement, like what are there in the explanatory statement, minimum vesting conditions, then lock-in is there or not. It gives all kind of requirement in Rule 12 as well as in Rule 16. Rule 16 is basically if company want to give loan to the trust for secondary acquisition, then Rule 16 comes to picture. And Rule 16 tells about what all disclosure required. In case of you go for a shareholder approval, explanatory statement, you have to mention certain disclosures. When we come to SEBI ESOP regulations, Regulation 3, 6, and Schedule 1 are the most important, because Rule 3 talks about trust route. If you have chosen trust route, then there are a lot of conditions you have to fulfill. Like there should be minimum 6-month holding for a trust before exercise of ESOPs. Then you can't acquire more than certain percentage from the secondary market. Like in 1 year, not more than 2% is allowed, and overall, not more than 5% of paid capital you can acquire from market. Then suppose you have acquired shares and you have to dispose of that shares if it is not backed by grant by end of subsequent financial year, and by NRC committee you can extend that period for next 1 year more. And this Schedule 1 of SEBI ESOP regulation is the most important. It contains everything. What is required is the trust deed. Suppose there is a trust deed. So what are the basic things required in trust deed? Explanatory statement, what are the requirement? You have to give minimum these information to the shareholders. Then if you are drafting your ESOP scheme, then NRC has to take into consideration certain disclosures, certain criteria there. So Schedule 1 is also very important. And as far as FEMA Act is concerned, if we are giving options to cross-border employees, then certain reporting is required to RBI, like form ESOP. And the most challenging thing in case of foreign employees is opening of demat account. Because foreign employees, they don't have PAN number, they don't have Indian bank account. So this is the real challenge. You have to get their PAN card prepared, then you have to open their NRI demat account, NRI saving account, then trading account. This all required a lot of effort. Then the most important thing is the proxy advisory guidelines. So proxy advisories, we have seen recent years that they generally recommend voting against ESOP scheme of the companies because of the 3-4 reasons, which are the most common. Is exercise price. Suppose you have not mentioned exactly the exercise price, and you have given all the powers to NRC committee. In most of the cases, we generally write that NRC committee will decide the exercise price, which will be not less than face value or not more than the market price. Then they will certainly recommend voting against. And the next thing is more than 1% to single employee without proper justification, because they will ask why you are giving so much option to one employee. If you prove that this is based on performance, this is the achievement of certain target, then they might vote in favor. Explanatory statement that we will launch ESOP scheme through any route, whether it's a trust or direct, then they will certainly recommend voting against. Then the last thing which their favorite subject for recommending against is the time-based. If you have given ESOP, if you have prepared ESOP scheme which is time-based vesting, so they will recommend against. If it is based on performance-based vesting, then they will ask, please mention specific performance criteria, which companies generally hesitate to mention, because we cannot say that this employee, if he achieved a revenue of 5,000 crore or market cap of 10,000 crore, we can't disclose all this. So there is some thing between company and proxy advisory on this. So performance, if it's performance based, and you have mentioned that this vesting will happen on achievement of certain EBITDA or revenue or market cap, etc. So they may sometimes feel comfortable and recommend voting in favor of the resolution. Then the next thing is trust deed. We have to draft trust deed very carefully if we have opted trust route. And the basic thing, the main criteria is mentioned in Part A, Schedule 1. This is the minimum thing you have to mention in your trust deed. And the next thing is trust should be established under provision of Indian Trust Act. It should be private trust. If you have opted for, if you have incorporated public trust, state specific like Bombay Trust Act, etc., so it's not in compliance of SEBI regulations. Then the next practical challenge is registered trust versus unregistered. In case you can open your demat account in your trust. And last thing is reserve matter. Generally, companies want that NRC should control the trust, because they want some reserve matter. If trustee want to purchase some stock option, if they want to dispose of some shares, if there is excess money in the trust and the trustee want to invest somewhere, so all these you have to keep in reserve matter, so that the only after NRC approval trustee can act. And the last thing, which is very procedural in nature but very challenging and difficult, like transfer of shares from trust. Earlier, we generally give DIS, signed DIS slip, and the shares get transferred from the trust in the account of demat account of employees. But nowadays, you have to add that option holder as beneficiary in your demat account, then execute DIS. And the most challenging is same day you have to get OTP authentication on depository platform. Suppose due to poor network or sometime you don't receive OTP from the depository same day. So again, you have to execute fresh DIS slip next day. So these are the practical challenges. And apart from this, that this RSU concept is not there in India. And if you want to give ESOP option to your foreign employee, say US employee or Canada employee, there is concept of RSUs. So you have to change your ESOP scheme to make it in compliance with US laws, because in India, exercise period is, you can decide by your own will. But in US, to comply their tax laws, there is settlement period concept. You can't extend exercise period some 2.5 years or like that. So these are the practical challenges and the key consideration which I feel. So that's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Irfan. Thank you. So Irfan, you have given your point of view of your company and what your experience. Now I'll request Mukesh. Mukesh, in rate gain table, you have multiple schemes and with so many agility, scheme structure, cash and equity both, ESOP pool expansion in action, because you announced a fresh grant of 59,000 shares expanded to pool of 4.5 crore, showing active and transparent grant equalization, measured ESOP ownership, that you have done certain things. So now you please tell us how this ESOP can help you, or your company has got some benefit of this, and what message you want to give to other industry colleagues to do this. Over to
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for, first of all, inviting me to this conference and accepting as a panel member. Thank you, corporate professional teams. And Irfan, really, it was, very interesting and detailed to hear from you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So to start with, as Irfan has almost covered everything from the aspect of a listed company. And we all understand that ESOP today is not just a normal tool wherein you engage your employee. It's more like bringing their loyalty. It's more like adding them into the system, making them feel that they are part of the organization and they grow along with the organization. Today, when we grant ESOPs or SARs to anyone, he doesn't only see it as a value, he also sees it as a recognition within the organization. So as tool, obviously, this is a very powerful tool to keep employees engaged into it. Going forward, as today, when we talk about the structure of rate again, we have a company in India, and then we have our subsidiaries all across the globe in UK, Spain, US, Germany. So obviously we have employees outside. It is important that when we provide ESOPs to them, we also handhold that they are able to realize those ESOPs or SARs. Many a times I have seen that ESOPs or SARs have been granted, but when it comes to realization or taking benefit of it, they face trouble as they don't have PAN number, they don't have demat account, they face a lot of challenges in that process. So as an organization or as a company secretary, it's important that we ensure that whatever we are giving to them is not just for the namesake, it's also that we ensure that they are realizing it. On the legal aspects, I think Irfan has covered everything, and Mohini would also be talking further. So I would not talk much on the legal aspects. I would like to talk a little about the proxies. As we all know that the role of proxies in unlisted company has increasingly, has increased a lot in recent times, because obviously their guidance are not only being followed by the retail investors. Few of the mutual funds, other large investors are now mandated to follow the proxy guidelines. And if they are not following, they have an internal process to provide reasons that why did they not follow that particular proxy which their management has identified. So obviously it has not become easy for any organization to get any resolution passed, and particularly if we talk about matter related to ESOPs, proxies try to safeguard the shareholder interest, and in this process, when you are issuing further ESOPs, SARs, whatever, which will liquidate their holding, which will have impact on their holding, they certainly try to look into from an angle that whether these are being given on a genuine basis, whether these are giving on with a pragmatic approach, or these are being just done for the sake of being done. And that is why, as Irfan illustrated, they are very serious on ensuring that whatever discount you are planning, that should be clearly illustrated into your explanatory statement. I recall one of the resolutions wherein the company mentioned a discount up to 30%. So the proxy firm responded back saying there is nothing called up to, and to a such large limit, you have to be more specific and more clear. Similarly, when we provide that these are the mechanisms, and normally it is taken 10, 20, 30, 40, or 30, 30, 33, 33, 33, or 20, 30, 50. So even these are some standard ways on year basis that we take. They want to see a reason that why have you specified. Yeah, why are you taking 10, 20, 30, 40? Why are you taking 33, 33, 33? What is your target? So everything has to be reasonably proved. Otherwise, they are going to give a negative recommendation. And in such cases, obviously, it becomes very difficult to get a resolution passed, particularly when the company is largely managed, when the public shareholding is quite large. So obviously, these are few practical challenges. One of the recent practical challenges which I saw that few companies are facing are, so we saw that there was a debacle into the market and the prices went down. Obviously, the SARs or ESOPs which were granted prior to this market crash, they were at a higher price. Now, on a practical side, these ESOPs which were given to the employees or SARs which were given to the employees meant zero for them. And which obviously also provided opportunity in the industry to, kind of easily contact employees for the purpose of change, or which is normal. Now, when an employee doesn't have any skin in the game, it also becomes easier for him to decide. Now, in such circumstances, what to do? There are few options, and few companies have exercised those options. Like, one could be giving additional SARs to ensure that whatever the gap is, that is fulfilled to some extent, and the employee is satisfied, and therefore his skin in game remains. Another could be repricing. The repricing requires shareholder approval. So that is obviously of the route, with the route which which one has to carefully evaluate. But there have been few things, few ways to ensure that the employees get the benefit and the value of it, so that they remain into the system. They have skin in the game, as I say. So these are few things which industry has faced very recently. And while granting SARs or ESOPs, the pricing is of the SARs and ESOPs play a very crucial role. If those SARs or ESOPs are not provided on a very decent price, and when I say decent, which means a reasonable good discount, which will help them realize some value in the coming time, then that it remains just an instrument for fancy sake, and it doesn't ultimately ingrain into the organization system. So while pricing these SARs, obviously this pricing is not like only company secretary or secretarial department work. It goes beyond, and HR, finance, everybody gets involved because there are tax implications to it. But to ensure that there has to be a good balance is very important. And as company secretaries, we should give that feedback to management whenever we are coming up with any such matter. But now, we have covered about listed companies, to talk a bit about unlisted companies or the startups who are now giving a lot of SARs, ESOPs. There, I believe the price is obviously one of the important thing. Beyond that, the liquidation. So if a SAR has been given, if few SARs or ESOPs have been given to the employees, now how can they liquidate it easily, and is there a foreseeable future where they can see that by that time either the company goes public, or I will have something in hand to ensure that I realize some value out of it? That obviously your policy can provide. In what manner, to what extent, that can change from organization to organization depending upon the risk appetite and other things that our organization can decide. But if that clarity is not there, then normally I have seen in startups or in unlisted organizations, after few years, maybe 3-4 years, the restlessness amongst the employees start, that what am I going to do this if this is not going to have any value in future? So this is something which which needs to be addressed. Beyond that, I think if I if I talk more on the platforms which should be used for ESOP. We currently use Incelis from the corporate professionals, and it's a wonderful platform to use. Our employees have also been very happy, and the way the team helps or supports in kind of resolving the issue. Let me tell you, I have used a few different platforms. My last organization was PVR Inox, and prior to that, also in few organizations, I used different platform. The platform here is really incredible, and the support is very good. Like on a click, on a message, on a call, you get that support. So use of any, whether Incelis or any other platform, is very important, because controlling the numbers, the exercises, the issues, the the suggestion or such matters becomes very difficult if you are doing it on an Excel sheet. It's good until you have 10-20 people included into that, but as soon as your number grows, and which will grow, as if you are a growing organization, it will become considerably difficult in future. So it's better that from the beginning only we start using any of such platforms and get engaged with consultants or knowledgeable people to ensure that whatever policies we are framing, whatever processes we are ensuring, those are well thoughtful. Sometimes we tend to copy. We know that we get something. I'm going little maybe beyond my subject, but we tend to copy, or we tend to get something from one of the friend and then implement it. Legally, it may be compliant, but practically, what are the recent and challenges? What other organization has faced? Somebody who has experienced this for 10-20 years and knows in and out of it will definitely be helpful in handling such a thing. So this is a broad guidance which I can give. And thank you again, all of you, for allowing me to speak here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mukesh. Thank you very much for giving proxy overview. And thanks for appreciating Mohini is her team. You are absolutely right. The way things are moving, the way it is happening, the ESOP is becoming a full-fledged chapter, full-fledged department. As you are aware, in corporate profession, we have a ESOP as one of the assignment in our capital market division. And in 2012 and 13, we divided to make it separate. And now today we have a complete department of ESOP. Mohini is heading. She has a 15-20% team, and we have more than 500 clients with us on various aspects of this. Thank you very much. Now, Mohini, you have to explain the industry point of view, that what is happening in the market, what people should learn, how it is important, and what are the latest trend which is happening. Over to you, Mohini.
Thank you, sir. So I'm just sharing my screen and welcome to all participants.
Yeah, it is visible. Just do the slide share mode.
Right. So good
Yeah.
evening, everyone. So as legally we have done, and I have explained, and I have many a times discussed on the legal aspects, that what exactly the ESOPs are, how the types of ESOPs are. Nowadays, because ESOPs are being there in companies which the journey is starting from the pre-IPO stage as well. Now the company get listed. Even the recent trend we have seen is that now the SME sector, wherein the promoters are basically owning the entire capital of the company, they are coming forward for giving the ESOP. So we have seen that definitely the ESOPs are now slowly penetrating into each and every size and the scale of the companies and industry sector and industry across. If I talk about, so already it has been penetrated now, even in the manufacturing, in the infra. Well, it's not only the baby on the ESOP structure is only for the IT or the BFSI. Definitely, it's now in every type of industry we have now been there. Now, but when we are implementing in recently, because recently few of the 4-5 main points which I have seen that the companies have started facing and the companies are inquiring about on these. So I just thought of giving that a little guidance and little discussion on that particular thing. So first of the important thing which Mukesh has also covered is recently we have seen, and not recent trend, if in many of the companies, and we have seen that when the fall in the value of ESOP benefit comes because of the market price drop. A simple means, I go to the background of that, that when any company grants the equity shares or grant the ESOP, SAR or RSU, whatever be the unit, it will be on the desired benefit. So the company decides on that to Mr. A, this much of desired benefit in over a period of 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years, the company wants to give. And now, and it ultimately counts that what number of units or ESOPs is to be given to an employee. And definitely for getting that, in India, if we talk about, the employee has to pay. So definitely it is a base price or an excise price which the employee will be getting, that he has to pay that, and then he will be getting the equity shares in his kitty. Now, when the how the company has predicted that the company will grow, but instead of that, if the company fair market value doesn't grow in that direction, and the two scenarios are possible in that case. The first scenario, if I talk about that, if the fair market value on any of the date falls below the excise price, many of the cases, either because of the economy, because of the company's per se internal structures or internal decision failures or any other reason may be there. But when it comes to fair market value, it doesn't belong to, it's a listed case on an unlisted company. In any of the value, when it falls below the excise price, then the question starts coming, what to do. The second scenario is also many the need to rethink on the excise price, or we say the value desired value benefit, when it comes to if the FMB is still above the excise price, but it is not up to that level, when we talk about we have to give the desired benefit. A little bit, if I explain with an example, that if the excise price is 120, but the fair market value today is 130, but when we have given the grant, we have apprehended that benefit is of around 200 the company has reached to. But the today what we have apprehended for 80, now it is only 10. Again, this kind of a situation also comes to when the people and the company start thinking of that whether when my employee is not getting it, so what I have to do. So I say, like Mukesh said, that many of the companies have adopted many of the practices. But before adopting any of the decision, like the repricing, it may be, or more number of SARs to be given, few of the first, I would like to just give a thought process to the companies that before you step into or before you take any of the decisions in this regard, please consider these few points so that it will help you to decide that which practice or which step you need to take in these scenarios when there is a fall in the market price and the benefit has been decreased. So first thing is comes to that ESOP scheme attractiveness is really being fall. So it's the a short-term perspective or it's a long-term. I explain it more. ESOP scheme attractiveness is because ESOP, we always say that ESOP includes equity, and equity is always be linked to risk. It may go up, it may go down. So if we think of, if the company is like this scenario will remain for a long period of time, then definitely the action is required. But if it is a short-term perspective, because of some reason it has been come down, but it definitely be pushing back to the normal level, then the pricing decision or any other decision can be deferred to. So this is the one aspect which can be considered. Second, it comes to that why you have there when you have given the ESOPs. So how you have given it, whether as a form of a reward you have given it, or whether as a part of a compensation you have given. So if I talk about reward, if you have given it, then because reward is over and above your compensation, if I talk about, then it's for the some objective, some purpose you have been given the ESOPs. So when the company has not been able to get that particular thing, then that reward, if it is a reward, we may think into okay, it is equal to, because it is linked to the risk. So we can defer the decision and can take later on that decision of any repricing or so. And the second comes to the compensation. So if it is a compensation part, Nowadays, we have seen that it is being the compensation. The ESOPs are now part of a compensation at the time of joining, at the time of promotions, at the time of the appraisal structures. Now, the ESOPs are being there. So when it is a part of a compensation, I think the decision of any with respect to correction of this is to be taken up an early one instead of deferring it. So this is also one of the important thing when you are taking any decision, you have to consider it. Second, third point comes is key, what the implication it will be. So implication of this also need to be think of key, if we taking decision, what will be impacting our accounts, the books of accounts, everything need to be considered before taking any decision, because it's not only the ESOP of equity you are going to issue. We all are aware of that ESOP is a cost to the company. When it is a cost to the company, it is to be so whenever you are making any decision, it is impacting your books as well. So consider that as well when you are implementing any decision. So this is the first the challenge, and recently because market has seen that thing, even in the listed and unlisted space, both have seen the decrease in the values. So this has come into one of the challenge, and the companies have taken the decision. Some has deferred the decision, but what I can suggest that before taking any decision, please consider all the aspects and then move forward for any of the particular decision. So this is the one first implementation challenge which the company face when it comes to. The second implementation challenge when it comes is the important thing is key disclosures in the explanatory statement related to ESOPs. So now, from the regulatory point of view, there are 15, 20 specific points in the explanatory statement which the company has to give to the shareholders to get their approval for their ESOPs. Why we are going to the shareholders is basically because we are going to expand. We are issuing the new fresh equity, and whenever we are issuing the next new fresh equity, we have to inform to our existing shareholder that we are issuing the fresh equity on these terms and conditions. So that's the reason why we have to give. But when we are giving this particular explanatory statement, we are treating it as like a compliance. But nowadays, it's not the compliance, because you are not coming out with any. The objective is very much clear that you are not coming on the ESOPs front in terms of, we say ki the objective is to be clear. It's not the fundraising activity which you are going to have. It's the tool which you are including in your company to channelize or to motivate your workforce. So this is the reason why this explanatory statement when you are giving to your shareholders for this ESOP approval is to be designed very carefully, and you have to communicate what exactly you be thinking of when you are creating this reward policy or a compensation policy. So the clarity on the objective should be very much clear. That it's a fixed compensation, it's the as a part of over and above reward. So all these things need to be very much clear when you are creating an objective. And don't what to avoid is that don't write a very a standard objective that we are coming with an ESOP to motivate our employee. No, now you have to simply say you have to clearly communicate that why you are coming with the ESOP. So that is the one important thing which in the when designing your explanatory statement, please consider this in an important point in that. Another important point next comes to when the other part of the disclosure comes, and wherein you need to explain the other important aspects on the and the terms on which the this equity is to be shown. So now uh, in many of the explanatory statements we have seen that the companies will write that all the decisions will be taken by the NRC, be it the pricing formula, be it the excise period, be it the vesting period, and be it the eligibility criteria. So, and also the lack of communication is there on the type of the dilution you are going to make, the how you are going to recognize the cost and the EPS impact ultimately, so that, and definitely if it's not being clear in the explanatory statement, you're not able to communicate that what exactly the NRC and the parameters, the broad parameters on the basis of which the NRC be going to take that decision, then definitely it is going to impact. And that's the reason we have seen that you are getting more and more questions from the proxy advisories in case of the listed companies, and also in the unlisted companies, if any company is coming out with any ESOP scheme, all these disclosures they also need to put forward before their shareholders. The private equity investors, the VCs, all are requiring these kinds of very good disclosures, or we are not saying the disclosures, all the parameters under which the company management will decide to remunerate their employees. So in the unlisted or listed space, these points we are saying that it should be very specifically written. So this is the another important thing which you need to consider when you are writing it. The next the point comes is when an important of the excise price and the vesting. Another important point in that from that itself comes to the excise price. So when it comes to excise price, so one of the thing which we need to and which we always keep in mind is that ESOPs are not meant to generate capital for the company. That should be very much clear. And it is not from the point of view of the company. It is from the point of view of the employee, if I talk about. So, and from the company and from the shareholders point of view, if I. So the shareholders, the proxies, everyone has to consider, keep in mind that thing, that ESOPs are not meant to generate the capital of the company. The core objective of this is to attract, retain, and incentivize employees, and by making them a partner in the long-term value creation. So whatever the excise price you are going to keep, that is impacting the entire policy rollout in the company. So that's very important. So what to avoid when you are explaining in your explanatory statement is that please do not avoid the disclosure in respect of that it implies fundraising intent ki this will be the price or that will be the thing, and do not justify a high excise price as a tool for capital generation, and simply refrain from inconsistent logic. Don't write inconsistent logic, and specifically we never support writing that NRC will decide whatever the price it suits, and at that time of the grant they think fit for the employee and vis-a-vis the company. So it's very open thing which we have given to the independent shareholders or the NRC who will be deciding on that. So we should be very much clear, and what exactly we recommend the companies when it comes to that you have to give about the excise price, that give the basis for determining the excise price. You will, whether it be a face value, whether it be a fair market value or a discounted price. So when you are talking about the discounted price, try to cap the discount, because so that it will be very much clear to the even the shareholders who are approving it, that up to what extent you can go for the discounting. Even if you are going for the face value, please give a very good rationale that why you are going with the face value in that case. Second comes is that the excise price is fixed to balance the employee benefit and the shareholders value, not to serve as a capital inflow. It should be very much be clear from your statement which you are giving. And if price is concessional to the FMV, please clarify to your shareholders that it is in line with the ESOP compensatory purpose and not a pricing strategy for cash generation. So it should be very much clear from your pricing strategy that what you are disclosing to your shareholders for getting their approval. So that's the another thing comes to. Now, in the explanatory statement, again, because it's a very long explanatory statement which it goes. So another important comes is key, what is the shareholders' expectations and the proxy advisory sensitivities when it comes to, and when they're reading, and the companies are now very much afraid of we are going for the shareholders' approval, what to write, what to not write. We want this kind of disclosure, or we don't want this kind of disclosure. So we just really say that please think of that the critical terms of explanatory statement in such a way that the clear purpose and rationale of implementing ESOP resolution is be there. Maximum dilution, which should be reasonably acceptable, that should be mentioned. Like and reasonably acceptance is not any percentage if I communicate is there. It depends upon the capital structure of your company. So you have to consider that. Then ensure that the pricing methodology should be transparent with proper justification. All the requisite disclosures should be there, and the clarity on this route of the scheme is very much there. You can't say ki we can go with trust or direct, whichever suits to us. No, you have to be very specific in that case. So go by that. So this is the proper, if you go by these kinds of disclosures, wherein you are communicating that why you are coming with the policy, I think it is a win. It is good. It is win-win for both the company and the shareholders to roll out this ESOPs. So in this particular thing, I would just want to say that ESOPs are not about dilution. They are about a value creation. So you're not losing your equity. You're investing it into the very people who can multiply it. So from that, you please create your explanatory statement, and it's so that it will be given and you can use this tool effectively in that case. The third type of challenge which is coming into this when we are implementing the ESOP is when it comes to the multinational presence, like the Radiant, Jubilant. If I talk about Cipla, many of the companies nowadays have the multinational workforce. They have the Indian employees outside India. They have the NRIs. They have the complete foreign nationals as well. So when you are working in that space, uh, it's not that because of so we are restricting that we should give ESOPs only to our Indian employees. You because it's for the every employee has a complete right over that. So you have to plan that ESOPs for your workforce who is outside India. So for them, when you are defining that, the points you have to consider is, and the companies are considering is, clarity on the cross-border laws are very much important. Like if you talk about China, your company is in China as well, but you have to extend the ESOPs to their employees. You can't do it. You have to require a prior approval. So you should have a complete knowledge on the FEMA aspects when it comes to the implementing the ESOPs cross-border. Second important point comes in the taxation. Because in India, we have the different taxability. In the US, we have the different taxability. In the Singapore, we have the different taxability. And the India also have the double treaty agreement, DTA, with all these nations. So when you are implementing ESOPs, because ESOP is not a free thing to an employee, it is a cost, it is a tax to him. So the taxation aspects are very much clear. You have to read the DTA so that when you are implementing and when your employees actually be exercising the ESOP, you should be able to answer those queries to them. So that's the very important thing which one you are implementing. Another important thing is that various territorial jurisdiction restrictions at their end, you need to consider that as well when you are extending that benefit. And the last one which comes is very important is understanding the foreign employees' interest and their ability to hold the Indian equity, because they are unfamiliar with the Indian equity aspect, tax impact, or the liquidity concerns. So then it comes to, so you will be very much clear on that whether they be able to hold it, whether they want to hold it, because when they are going to sell the funds are on repatriation or non-repatriation, so that is to be considered when you are creating that thing. An alternative way now I have seen, and we have seen that the companies are now slowly and gradually be moving towards the phantom stocks or SAR scheme for their foreign nationals. So that's also one of the thing which you can plan for, but that is also not that it's in an unregulated area. But yes, even if you are going the phantom or the cash settled SARs, you have to follow a few norms and the laws in India when you are enforcing that. The another important point which we have seen in this, that I have seen that already we are aware of that all the companies before IPO are now considering this ESOPs, and many of these unicorns or soon to be unicorns, all the people from the very first day or after a journey of 4 or 5 years in their startup journey, they are implementing the ESOPs, and many of the companies are implementing since beginning. But when they reach to the stage of coming out with an IPO and filing the DRHP, few of the points I suggest that they should consider when they are IPO ready. First is ESOP data reconciliation. So we have that in consistency with the HR, with the accounts, and the your secretarial team should be have a one figure only. So actual versus disclosures should be aligned. So that is the one important thing which you need to keep in mind. Second is DRHP disclosure, because ensure the cost, excise period, whatever the grants valuations are there, whatever you have disclosed in your annual report, that will be reflected in the DRHP. And it's not that you have reflected anything in your annual report and you are reflecting any other thing in your DRHP. So ready disclosures should be there for the DRHP. And the third important point when it comes to is that when you are an unlisted company and filing your RHP and already you have an ESOPs in your company, So important point an event need to decide in the company is that when to open the exercise window. It's a pre-filing of RHP or post-listing. So that is also to be considered, and very carefully you need to discuss on that when you want to open your exercise window. Many of the companies are opening it before RHP and getting their shares listed, and employees will have the listed equity in hand when the company get listed. And many of the companies are going for the post-listing. When the company get listed, their value get unlocked, and then they are giving an opportunity to the shareholder, to the employees, that they become the actual shareholder and get their wealth realized. So this is also one of the important aspect when the company is going for the IPO, have to consider in that. Another is that definitely it's the regulatory part, that they have to review their scheme, and before making the fresh grants, they have to ratify it through their shareholders. So be ready for that. Whatever you have given the grant, that will remain as it is. But definitely in the future, when you are giving for the new grants, you have to get it passed through your new shareholders, and you have to get the approval of your exchanges. So that's the in the pre-IPO scenario to post-IPO. The last point which I want to cover in today, the practical implementation, is the corporate actions. Nowadays, every company, the companies are going for the split rights bonus. Even the mergers, demerger, any kind of reorganization of capital is in the company, the corporate world is going on. So when you have an ESOP, it's not that ESOPs remain untouched and you go for any of the corporate action. You have made them a partner in your equity. You have given some value. You have given some exercise price to them to exercise. So now whenever the company is going for rights, bonus, split, and some division or any reorganization, you have to consider the impact of this decision on your ESOP holder as well. And you have to make a suitable adjustments for them. Like you have to make an adjustment in either in the price, in the quantity, or both as well. So, and along with that, you have to consider on the balance sheet impact for that. So what the point you need to consider is identify the corporate action, whatever the adjustment you need to make, you have to make, considering that the value which you have given at the time of the grant remain unchanged when you are entering into this corporate action. I simply take an example to make it understand, like you have split. So you have made a 10 face value equity into a 5 face value equity. So it's not that ESOP remain 10 as it is. The 10 ESOPs also get multiplied by 2, and it will be now the 20 ESOPs of face value of 5 each. So this kind of an adjustment you need to make. And the same case is with the bonus as well, because bonus increases your capital, your shareholders has received it, and your employees are value have decreased, whatever the in the proportion in which the bonus has been given. So suitable adjustment in that respect also to be given when you are going for the corporate action. So that's the very important aspect in the practical implementation when the rolling off of ESOP comes to. So these are the few practical challenges which I want to cover in this particular webinar of today. So thank you from my side, and any questions we can take in the end. Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mohini. We have already received so many 11 plus 20, 25 questions. We will give reply. In the meantime, I'll request you read these questions, so we will be taking less time. Okay,
Right.
now the changes has taken place. The regulatory changes which have come, and continuously they are changing. So we should learn and we should know about these changes also to become updated. So now, Anshuma, it is your turn to tell us what are the changes has taken place.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much. I hope I'm audible to everyone.
Yes, you are audible.
Okay, I'm just sharing my screen first.
Yeah, it is visible. Just do it slide share.
Sure, sir. Is it visible now?
Yeah.
Okay, sir. So good afternoon, everyone.
Do
So
it
firstly, thank you for joining.
slide share mode.
Sir, I think I did it. Is it visible?
No, it is
Just a
coming.
second. Yeah.
Go for slide share.
Sir, I've gone for slide share. I've already done. Is it visible on the screen?
Not visible.
Just a second, sir.
Same. It is coming.
Just a second. Just a second. I'll share again. Is it moving forward now?
Presentation is there, but it is not in slide share mode. So
Sir,
just
I've done.
on the top slide share, you press.
Is it visible now? Just a second.
No, it's presentation is not there now. It is visible, but not in slide share mode. So you carry on.
I think I've tried again. Let me know if it is visible now.
Okay, you carry on.
Sure. Okay. Sorry for the inconvenience first. Good afternoon, everyone. So thank you for joining this session. I think in the beginning of the session, many of the panelists and industry practitioners have already given a major framework and go through on the regulatory aspects of ESOPs. So I will not discuss each one of which is applicable on the in terms of ESOPs. But however, in this aspect, I would like to focus on the some of the key and impactful changes which have been recently introduced by the SEBI in the ESOP rule book for the listed company. However, for the unlisted aspect, I will be trying to covering a legal process and what aspects of law is required to be kept in mind when we are actually implementing an ESOPs. So, as everybody is aware about the core framework which is applicable for the listed companies, that is the SBB regulations, which specifically governs different types of equity instruments, be it ESOP, an RSU, a stock appreciation, equity settled, or ESPs, or a sweat equity. Then, apart from the core framework, it is just there are other regulations also which are indirectly governing some of the disclosures or compliances part also, be it SEBI LODR regulations or ICDR regulations, which are very importantly playing role through which require the disclosures and compliances requirement. Then comes the Companies Act, which is absolutely the governing section, which talks about the issuance of ESOPs, that is, be it a further issue of capital, which is governed by Section 62(1)(b), and it is read with Rule 12. Another important aspect or the governing provision or the law which is required to be kept in mind comes the taxation. So every day we are facing challenges wherein how to determine the taxation in the hands of the employees, or is there any taxation liability which arises on the company. So income tax provision has to be looked into at that point of time to calculate the perquisite and capital taxation with respect to ESOPs. The another most important hot topic is the cross-border ESOPs, that is the FEMA regulations, applicability of the FEMA, FDI. If in case any company who is planning to give ESOPs to a non-resident employees or foreign nationals, so this FEMA regulations comes into the picture. Also, recently SEBI has issued some consultation paper also with the objective to define and propose clarifications in the existing regulations and reform the respective regulations. Now we will have some regulatory framework at glance for financial year 24-25. Firstly, as I told you that there are some key aspects or the important changes which has been made in terms of disclosure and compliance requirement for ESOP. But I would like to highlight here is that since these changes have not been specifically implemented directly under the SBB regulations, these have been and channelized through various other disclosure requirements like SEBI LODR, then SEBI ICDR regulations, and other aspects. So the timeline for the regulatory change goes in, that is December 31st, there was respective disclosures. Moving forward to March and March 8, which the disclosure with respect to ICDR came into picture, and then March 20, wherein consultation was proposed and disclosure on the holding of specified securities demat firm has been proposed. So if I talk about the circular for implementation of the recommendations, the first circular has been said, which talks about 2 amendments with respect to ESOPs. First is the guideline for disclosure of the employee benefit schemes related documents. And second talks about the timeline for disclosing these events which are being covered in the part A of Schedule 3. So let's try to understand the first amendment. This amendment has been very crucial in terms of listed companies, where the actual circular actually requires the upload the ESOP scheme document, which is required to be uploaded on the website of the company after obtaining the shareholders' approval. The reading of the circular says that these documents shall mandatorily have some minimum information to be disclosed as per the SBB regulations. The rationale for redacting information from the documents is just
Anshuma, your presentation is
Yeah.
not moving. It's
just
still
a
on
second, sir.
page.
Sure, just a second, sir. Give me a second. Sanchit, can I request you to, if you could take forward the webinar from here as of now. Meanwhile, I'll just look into the technical aspects and then I'll begin where I've left off.
Sure, no problem, Anshuma.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, Sanchit will cover the valuation aspects. Sanchit, please.
Sure. So I think till the time Anshuma is joining, I'll take into consideration the complete valuation framework and understand how exactly this really helps during the process of valuation. So let's first look at the life cycle of ESOP. Although Mohini Vashne did cover a lot on what ESOP process is like. We create an ESOP policy, which is then implemented by the board and shareholders' approval is received on it, followed by the grant of ESOP by issuing a grant letter, and then the vesting that comes into play. And in the end, it's exercise of the ESOP share. Now, during this whole life cycle of ESOP, valuation is required at exactly two phases. Phase one, when any company is granting their ESOPs, that is, ESOPs has to be valued at that point of time by an independent valuer or a merchant banker, which is governed by the Ind AS 102. Ind AS 102 says that you have to apply specific methodology to value the options for that ESOP so that you can book your cost into the financial statements. That's the purpose of doing the valuation at the time of grant. Valuation date remains the date of grant, and the cost that comes out through that valuation is used to book in your financial statements. After the grant is done, there is vesting. There are different vesting conditions. The vesting period takes into account, and then followed by the exercise of options. When the options are exercised, there is a valuation requirement again, which is known as the ESOP tax perquisite valuation, which is required by a SEBI registered merchant banker, which is governed by the Income Tax Act. And Section 17 says that. Anyway, after the exercise, allotment is done for the shares to the employees. So these are the two phases and steps when the valuations are required. Now, let's look at the accounting reasons. Whether it's a listed entity or an unlisted entity, valuation is mandated by the Ind AS 102, which is share-based payment, for ESOPs that are granted to book the expense in their financial statements. The valuation is to be taken from an independent valuer or merchant banker before the end of the financial year so that they can book their cost in the P&L. In the case of a listed entity, we always take into the account the fair value is considered as the value that is being shown on the stock exchange, because there are certain factors that affect the valuations of ESOP. These are the factors which are fair value of the underlying equity share, the volatility of the equity share, the expected life of options, the dividend yield, and the risk-free rate. Whether it's a listed company or an unlisted company, these all factors affect the valuation for the ESOP. Firstly, in case of a listed company, we don't require the fair value of the underlying equity share, as that value can be derived from the stock exchange. However, in case of an unlisted company, that value has to be determined by applying various international valuation standard methodologies, whether through income approach, market approach, or cost approach, in identifying the fair value of the company. Followed by the volatility, expected life, and dividend yield. These are used for calculation in the formula based for the option valuation. Now, To do the option valuation, there are various methodologies. The most industry practice is utilizing a Black-Scholes model. Um, and all of these factors affect that respective Black-Scholes. There can be other methodologies as well, as depending upon the ESOP scheme that you have drafted on the basis of the conditions, whether it could be a Monte Carlo or a binomial. The phase 2, which is the ESOP tax perquisite valuation. Again, at the time of exercise, ESOPs as a perquisite requires valuation as per the income tax rule. In case of a listed company, there is no need to take a valuation certificate from a merchant banker. However, in case of an unlisted company, a valuation certificate from a merchant banker registered with SEBI is required not earlier than 180 days prior to the date of exercise. And a predominantly fundamental rule is to calculate the value on the basis of the FMV of the shares on the date of exercise, reduced by the exercise price which has been paid at the time of the which is to be paid, which was decided at the time of grant. That is considered as the perquisite value of ESOP, which is given as a valuation certificate by a merchant banker. As I mentioned, in case of a listed company, we don't require a valuation certificate. Average of opening and closing price can be taken into consideration. But in case of an unlisted company, the price is to be determined by a merchant banker. We will be touching upon 409A valuations. What exactly 409A valuations are, I'll dig a little bit deeper. With our global expansion, this becomes a very important aspect. 409A valuation is a US tax compliant process used by companies, private companies in the United States, to determine the fair market value of the common shares whenever they are issuing stock options. So that is what is exactly a 409A. It is required. Why it's required? It's required at the before we issue the stock options, and it prevents the issuance of options below the fair market value and sets the exercise price of the stock option. So that is the main reason of why we require a 409A valuation. When we require, so it is required every 12 months, once every 12 months, or it is required upon any material event that happens within a company. And third condition is whenever stock options are being initially issued. I'll dig deeper into the fact of ESOP valuation for cross-border grants to Indian employees. So any company which is not registered within India is registered anywhere outside India, US, UK, Dubai, Singapore, and any ESOPs are being granted to Indian employees. And whenever those Indian employees exercise their ESOPs, that triggers the valuation requirement by a SEBI registered merchant banker. Again, if a foreign company is giving ESOPs, the fair market value of the shares on the date of exercise has to be calculated, which is to be reduced by the exercise price of the shares at the time of grant. And that is how the perquisite value of ESOP is calculated for all the international corporations which gives ESOP to the Indian employees. These are all the factors that are required when it comes under the framework of valuations at the time of grant and valuation at the time of exercise. Thank you so much. I'll be happy to take any questions that you may have post this session in the end.
Thank you, Sanchit. Thank you for giving explanation of the ESOP valuation, though it is a very integral part. Okay, Anshuma, please resume.
Sure. Sorry for the inconvenience. I'll just check back. This is visible now, right?
Visible, but not in the slide.
Yeah. Better now?
It's okay, but not in slide share. Yes, it is okay now.
Okay, sir. Okay. So where I'm just picking up from where I left off. So firstly, I am actually talking about the recent changes which has been proposed by the SEBI through the which are critical in aspect of disclosure requirement and compliance requirement for the listed companies. So the first important disclosure which came through a circular was with respect to December 31st, 2024. So certain recommendations of the expert committee were taken by the SEBI, and few aspects or certain amendments which were covered with respect to ESOP were: first was with respect to guidelines for disclosure of employee benefit scheme and related documents. And second amendment, which was proposed to the same circular, was considering the timeline for disclosing the certain events which have been mentioned in Part A of the Schedule 3 of the LODR regulation. So I'm going to take up both of the amendments one by one and try to explain or decode what exactly is the SEBI requirement in this aspect. So first amendment, where the reading of the circular says that the ESOP scheme document shall be uploaded on the website of the listed entity after obtaining the shareholders' approval, which shall be in compliance with the SBB regulations 21. These respective documents needs to have some mandatory minimum information to be disclosed as per the SBB regulations. However, the new information which is actually creating confusion, which talks about the rationale which requires a certain redaction information in this document, along with some justification to be provided if the company thinks that the scheme includes certain portions which are actually competitive in nature or may reveal certain commercial secrets. So the companies are required to then put in forward these redaction policy in front of the board and get it approved. So when we talk about the minimum disclosure requirement which needs to be done, is basically the company has to comply or disclose that respective part of the scheme which should include all the disclosures which are prescribed in the Part D of the Schedule 1 of the SBB, which includes scheme objective, class of the employees who are eligible, the appraisal processes, vesting period, maximum grants, pricing formula, lock-in and such transfer restrictions. As the language of the circular says, that since these are the minimum information, so even if some redaction part is being done under the scheme, ensure that these disclosures are there. So when you say about what do you mean by redacted information? So to give little clarity on this term, it is basically the process of removing some sensitive or confidential information before the document is made public. So through redaction, the SEBI is actually asking the companies to identify themselves that whether there are such certain sensitive information in the scheme which is likely to affect the competitive position. If yes, then the companies are requested to remove those respective sections, provide a justification along with them, and why these disclosures would harm the competitive interest of the company, and how does it qualify that as a confidential or commercially sensitive information. The companies are then required to place this memo in front of the board and get it formally approved. So how this process can be taken forward? First is to, whenever at the time of you are approving the scheme, through the obtain the requisite shareholder approval, identify at that period only that any redaction or prepare is required, prepare a rationale with justification, place it in front of the board again and to get approval on them, and then upload the ESOP scheme with those approved redacted information by the board, and try to ensure all the minimum disclosures as provided by the SEBI. Under this circular, the role of secretarial auditor has also been highlighted, which says that the secretarial auditor needs to also ensure that this compliance with respect to the ESOP scheme has been complied with all the aforesaid requirements. So basically, the rationale behind to include a secretarial auditor to confirm the compliances is to ensure that the completeness of the ESOP document, whether redactions are board approved and proper disclosures of website have been given, and to ensure an independent check on the compliance and promote governance discipline. So under the same circular, the second amendment comes, it's disclosing that certain timeline has been updated, wherein that part of Schedule A, which actually says that if in case of material information, a certain time limit needs to be complied. So if you say that the SEBI LODR provision under the master circular came in, wherein all the disclosure requirements have been mentioned under Annexure 18A. Now this has been substituted by Annexure 5 under this circular dated December 31st, which says Now, what is the actual difference between the earlier provision and new provision? There is not much of a difference. Only it says that if any material information is being approved by the board of directors. So earlier, the companies were have to inform to the stock exchange within 30 minutes of the closure of the board meeting. But now the proposal, the addition which has been made is that if the board meetings are ending even after the market hours, but at least 3 hours before the next trading day starts, then the companies can disclose event or information even within those 3 hours from the closure of the board meeting. Rest, the timeline for 12 hours and 24 hours remains the same. So when we're talking about ESOPs, so this timeline is actually being updated with respect to Part A of the Schedule 3, right? But if you will, the compliance part says that ESOPs are not governed under Part A because they are subject to the materiality guidelines. So where they are actually covered then? So Regulation 30, Disclosure of Material Events, which is a circular date July 13, 2023, which particularly mentions that events, ESOPs, as in those events which has to be disclosed only upon the application of the guidelines for materiality. So for that, in that case, let's say if the ESOP, if the company has approved the scheme, and now if you want, now the company has to check whether the materiality guidelines are applicable. If not, then the timeline for disclosure is within 12 hours, considering that the ESOP implementation is being originated within the company. Now, approval of the ESOP scheme is considered as an issuance, so a physical proper meeting has to be called in that case. But there are many questions which comes to us saying that whether we can approve the grant or vesting or exercise by circulation or not. So yes, you can approve it through circulation, but then what are the required disclosure timeline again comes into picture. So the disclosure timelines again depend on the materiality aspects. See, if many of the companies, they consider as the as grant and allotment of share, such certain event wherein the requisite disclosures are being filed on the stock exchanges, because for them vesting or count of each vesting or exercise is not feasible. So that is why the requisite timelines in that case is also required to be complied with. So this was the first circular which says about the two basic amendments. Now the another changes which has been proposed is through the ICDR regulation itself, which was lastly amended on March 8, 2025. Under this, 4 aspects of disclosure or flexibility or coverage has been explained. So first amendment which talks about, or which says that certain flexibility has been provided in the IPO when the companies are pre-filing of the draft of a document is being done. So basically this clause has been explained in 2 phases, which says that before filing, any SEBI observations are being given to the company before filing of the pre-filed draft application. And second stage is when SEBI actually issues the observation. So what actually is being allowed? So I'll just move forward on this. Yeah. So SEBI ICDR is basically says that a company cannot file a draft red herring prospectus if there are any outstanding convertible securities or options to convert into equity shares, unless these securities have been mandatorily converted before filing of the DRHP, or it is allowed, let's say the ESOP based allotments are allowed. But a third exception has now been added here, saying that even the outstanding stock appreciation rights, if yet to be converted or even they have been exercised, these type of information related to SAR and the number of equity issued and exercised can also be covered in both the draft offer document and the final offer document. Under this, yeah, so yes. The amendment which has been proposed under the ICDR only is how to calculate the post-issue expanded capital for the minimum promoter contribution. So for this, as the recent amendments, in addition to already including that the equity shares from conversion of outstanding convertible securities and shares which are arising from the exercise of vested ESOPs already are included are taken into consideration when you're calculating the post-IPO share capital. But along with this, they have also considered that those equity shares which are arising from the exercise of the stock appreciation rights, even if these SARs have been fully exercised before the filing of RHP, can be considered to calculate this post-IPO expended capital. The third amendment comes in for the period of lock-in. So it is said that the entire pre-issue capital of the shareholders shall be locked in for a period of 6 months from the date of allotment, in case if you're going through a public issue, or from the date of listing in case direct listing is happening without a public issue, let's say SME or direct listing. But there are certain exceptions to it. What are the exemptions which are provided here is that this additional, the requirement of 6 months is not applicable, are not subjected to 6 months lock-in period where the equity shares allotted to employees, whether they have been allotted to current employees or ex-employees, have been given under a stock appreciation rights scheme, and equity shares which are held by the ESOP trust, or these are being transferred by the trust to the employee pursuant to the exercise of SARs, are exempted from the requirement of 6 months lock-in period. Okay, so these were the two base amendments. Now, another circular which came on was March 2025, which focused on the disclosure of holding of specified securities in dematerialization form, that is filing of the shareholding pattern. The clarification through this circular was issued saying that the outstanding convertible securities are also includes ESOP at the time you're filing the shareholding pattern of the company. Now, that is under Regulation 31 of the SEBI LODR. Now, this is the form which we this is under regulation. This is the revised format of the shareholding pattern now. And the two highlighted columns are where the proper clarification has been given that ESOPs are included. You need to mention the number of shares which are underlying the outstanding convertible securities. And against that, the total number, that is the existing capital plus the ESOPs which are will be converted. Both of the capital will be added to give you the respective total number of shares on the fully diluted basis. Now, as I told, the SEBI on March 30, 2025 has also brought in some consultation paper providing clarity or proposing certain amendments to be made to SEBI ICDR and SEBI SBB regulations. The intention is to streamline certain processes to give more clarification, particularly on those ESOPs which are granted prior to the filing of the DRHP to those founders who are later on classified as a promoter at the time of filing of DRHP. So the intention of the SEBI was here to clarify that since if you look at the definition of the employee as per SBB, it has post-listing, it has been properly clarified that the employee who is a promoter or person belonging to the promoter group are not considered or cannot be given ESOPs, right? So promoters are basically not eligible for ESOPs under SBB. Therefore, even the promoters and their promoter groups cannot be granted ESOPs post-listing. And the same requirement has been listed under Companies Act as well. So what exactly do they we are clarifying from here is that the SEBI LODR says, the SEBI ICDR says the promoter is that person who has control over the issue, whether directly or indirectly. So because of this requirement, the founders who have certain control before the company gets listed may be classified as a promoter at a later stage when they are filing the DRHP. So because of this classification, the shareholdings or any ESOPs which have been priorly granted to them might be considered it is then comes a requirement to actually clarify whether they have to be included or not. Currently, the SBB regulations does not allow the exercise of granted option ESOPs, but therefore it has been proposed through this consultation paper that an explanation needs to be properly mentioned in the SBB under Regulation 9(6). So clarifying that what ESOPs and at what time period when they are granted are eligible even after the listing. So this consultation paper seeks clarification saying that those options which have been granted to the founder before he was classified or identified as a promoter, and those options which have been granted to him at least 1 year before the board of directors decided to go for an IPO can be continued. They are still allowed and they continue to hold an exercise from the ESOPs. So what do you have to understand from here is that if your company is preparing for an IPO, you need to review all the outstanding ESOP and SAR grants, especially those which are held by the promoters, which are likely to be identified as a promoter. ensure that no new grants have been made to such person within 1 year before the IPO decision date, and maintain proper documentation showing that the grants were made in compliance with the scheme. Now, these were the aspects which I covered for the listed entity. I will just give you a go through on the regulatory framework of the unlisted company.
Anshuma, we
Ji,
have
sir.
question
Yeah.
answer. So,
Yeah,
so,
it's almost over.
so within 2 minutes you close it, okay?
Sure. I'll just highlight the main important regulatory points. As we are already knowing that Companies Act is the governing section for unlisted company. So, at the time of grant and vesting, if any company plans to give any ESOP to a foreign entity employees, then you need to ensure that the RBI compliance needs to be done through form ESOP, that is within 30 days of the grant. And the next important comes in because now through in October 23, the MCA has introduced a new provision where all the private company had to dematerialize their shares by September 30, 24. So now the companies has an additional compliance with regards to corporate actions forms and capital admission for applications to be filed to be done in the terms of this. If any allotment is being made to the foreign directors or employees, then compliance again comes at the RBI point of view where form FCGPR needs to be done. I think this is what proper disclosures also are required to be made in the board report. So I think these are the aspects of regulatory framework considering that the listed and the unlisted entity has been covered here.
Okay.
Pawan, so you may take forward, yeah.
Thank you very much, Anshuma. Thank you for covering, because today around 20 questions, so we have to be very fast. Anjali, Moini, let's start questions. There is no cap on the number of ESOP grant during the year on the giving month. Our query is, if a company grant ESOP twice in a month with a gap of around 7 days or possibly even less between the two grant, are we required to obtain two separate value report for each grant? Sanchit and Moini, can you explain?
So, in technicality terms, yes. However, if there are multiple grants that are being issued in a single month or over a period of months, what we can do is we can create a bucket for those respective grants and do the valuation according to that.
Okay. Moini, can we obtain a single valuation certificate on a quarterly or half-yearly basis, irrespective of the number of grant made during the quarter and half year? Sanchit, you can.
I think in the unlisted space, it will work, but in the listed space, if we talk about considering the volatility factor, it's not feasible. You have to take on every grant this ESOP grant valuation.
Okay. Now I will start. In case of unlisted public company, only we have to give very short answer. In case
Sure.
of public company propose to plan for IPO in future, can company create a ESOP trust and allot some shares to the trust for ESOP to be implemented in future pre-IPO at book value without framing ESOP scheme at the time of making trust?
No, legally it's not possible. Will first into the legal challenge because because you can't issue the shares at a book value to the ESOP trust. Reason being, you have to go follow the preferential allotment case in that case. So you can't, without any ESOP scheme, you can't have the allotment to your ESOP trust for the future schemes.
Okay. In case of unlisted company, propose to plan for IPO in future, can company create a ESOP trust and allot some shares in the trust for ESOP?
Repeated question of this.
Okay. In case of cross charge and subsequent recovery of expense by the Indian holding company or ESOP issued to the employee of its overseas subsidiary company, are there any time limit prescribed for the respect of the recovery of such expense by the company parents from its overseas subsidiary? Whether there is a need to issue any invoice or credit note to the subsidiary at the time of vesting exercise of such ESOP?
I think whenever you are closing your accounts for that particular period, in that particular financial year, you have to make this transfer pricing. So, I think your auditor can suggest you better in that case.
Okay. If an employee get ESOP in the listed company after the board meeting, can he take pre-clearance approval for creation of pledge and revocation of pledge of the same ESOP scheme at the same time? And also, can he sell the same ESOP shares after the revocation of pledge? Is this above transaction shall be considered as a contra entry?
So in the contra, so simple rule in the contra in and with this vis-a-vis ESOP is that if you are exercising the ESOP and you are selling the ESOPs, then it is not a contra. But if you are creating in between a pledge and then you'll be selling the shares to settle that pledge, it will fall under the contra, but you may approach to your this compliance officer to get the exemption from this contra trade because it's for the ESOP fundraising activity, I presume. So you may approach to your this compliance officer for that.
Okay. If can the employee take the ESOP in HUF demat account?
No, ESOPs is different, is not a transferable unit, so you have to take in your account only.
Does the CSR require the shareholders' approval? Whether SAR requires shareholders' approval?
In case equity settled SAR is there, definitely. In case it's a cash settled, it's up to the company. It's not legally required.
Okay. Are both cash settled and share settled SAR permitted under FEMA?
Yes, FEMA permits both.
Okay. Whether shares held by trust will be count as public shareholding?
No, it's the non-promoter, non-public.
Okay. What happened to employee rotation, resignation after vesting? Also enlighten on tax implication on employee and company.
If the employee resigns and after resignation, if he's exercising any ESOPs given from your any ex-employer, so you either because it's again a perquisite which you are receiving from your employee, the company liability is there, but company may discuss with the employee and can settle it. The employee can pay from their side itself. It's
Okay.
like any remuneration which you are receiving from your past employer.
Okay. In many startup entities under direct method, cap table will earmark ESOP pool 15% total diluted shareholding. The ESOP pool has no breakup of trust form. Just it is embarked in cap table backed by board resolution. This dilution we don't find in any in respect of ROC record. Explain how startup manage such ESOP pool.
So ESOP, when you are making only ESOP pool, definitely there is no issuance of equity. So in the ROC record, you never be getting it. In the companies, when they are giving any kind of cap table to their investors, they will definitely be talking about the on a diluted basis. So they are maintaining their internal records. But through the director's report, you can come through this about the ESOP pool. But in the ROC filing, definitely you will not be able to.
Okay. SEBI SBEB regulation are for the listed company, but I read in the EDA guidelines for corporate governance 2016, the shares of the insurance company, unlisted company offered a ESOP to CEO, MD, PO on the insurance company shall be governed by the provision of SEBI, SBEB, except those relating to the price of the shares. I am confused because I thought SBEC do not apply to unlisted company.
RBI has come out with for the NBFCs and NBFCs, and similarly the IRDA has also come out with the guidelines for the ESOP issuance for the insurance companies. So there they are referring to few of the clauses like Black-Scholes calculations through the for the computation of ESOPs. So in that accordingly you have to follow that. But if you require any specific guidance, definitely you can write to us on our mail ID. We will guide you on that.
Okay. Sanchit, Ind AS 102 is applicable even if company is not preparing financial as per Ind AS.
So if they are not preparing as per Ind AS, then in that case, it has not to the ESOP cost has not to be done prescribed by the Ind AS. However, for better governance, it is always better that you book your ESOP cost as per the methodology prescribed there.
Okay. Moni, you want to add anything?
No, it's correct.
Foreign entity issue ESOP to its Indian employee who will record ESOP cost in P&L account. How it happened? Will parent company raise debit note to or charge on Indian entity?
It's a transfer pricing case. Sanchit may add also. It's a transfer pricing like an Indian entity giving the shares to the foreign national or foreign entity is giving to the Indian entity.
There is no requirement for, so the cost will be booked by the company that is issuing ESOP, and accordingly the transfer pricing will be charged to the respective Indian company. But in case when the employees exercise, in that case, the valuation is required for perquisite purpose for the Indian employees.
Okay. Okay. The overseas cross-border employee sales shares rising from exercise of ESOP scheme of the listed company. The AD Bank insists of citing copy of FCGR, FCTRS. Why these instances when the shares never cross from disinvestment to FDI of FDI? Is ESOP exercise an act of FDI?
Yeah, ESOP, when ESOP is a part of an FDI, if you read the FEMA circular, FEMA provisions in that regard. But yes, when you are issuing the ESOP, you are granting the ESOP, you have to file the form ESOP. And whenever there is an issuance of equity at that time, then the company has to file this FCGPR. And in case it is a trust which is transferring the share, FCTRS is required, because already in the trust case, the shares are in existence.
Okay.
So these filing forms are correct.
Okay. If the employee have ESOP shares, have now resigned, what will be status in regard to ESOP after his resignation? What compliance to be taken into record?
So it depends upon the scheme of yours. The scheme talks about what will happen with the vested part and unvested part. In the resignation cases, every time unvested part get lapsed, and the vested part is to be exercised as per the scheme. In many of the companies, they are giving the time period, or they are linking it to event, so that has to be followed for that. In case you don't, then it get lapsed.
Okay. Is there any reporting requirement for Indian subsidiary in case ESOP are issued by the foreign holding company to Indian subsidiary employee?
Yeah, so you have to report and disclose in your director's report, because your employees have been given the ESOPs. It's from your parent company, but you have to disclose it, because you are booking the cost as well. In case if your parent company is transferring to you, you have to give the record of that.
Okay. In case of recovery of charge from subsidiary, is there any time limit under FEMA for realizing such expenses?
For realizing which kind of expenses for that?
Of charge
For the
from subsidiary.
charge, no, FEMA doesn't talk about that. What the charge, how you have to charge. It's your transfer pricing norms which have to follow, and then Indian accounting standards are there.
Is the company does not have ESOP scheme prior to filing DRHP and also have not mentioned the intention of introduce ESOP scheme, can it introduce ESOP scheme and do the grant post DRHP filing and prior to RHP filing?
Yes, they can do. They can do before RHP filing. Yes, definitely. This transaction is possible.
Can we issue ESOP to foreign national advisor if he is not an employee?
No. If you talk about an Indian context, for the Indian company, only the employee can be the grantees. You can't give a grant to your any consultant, even though it's Indian or foreign national, it doesn't matter.
Okay. Such that what interval ESOP valuation is required for unlisted company?
So it is required at the time of grant, and it is required at the time of exercise of the ESOPs.
Okay. If a company has a monthly grant cycle, how many times does the company need to get a valuation done?
See, if there are more than one grants that are happening, ideally, the valuation is to be done on the date of grant. But in case of multiple grants during a small period of time, in that case, we can create a bucket and we can do the valuation on the basis of quarter basis or bi-weekly basis like that.
Okay.
What in that ways.
What are the key factors that impact ESOP valuation in listed company?
So fair value of the underlying price, volatility, the dividend yield, the risk-free rate. These are the key factors that affect the valuation when it comes to the compensation cost of options.
Okay. What challenges are commonly faced in ESOP valuation?
So with respect to the challenges, once the ESOP scheme is drafted, it is primarily in case of unlisted company, the underlying price has to be calculated, which is done using various methodologies. But otherwise, if the grant date is decided, exercise price is decided, in that case, it's a very fairly standard process.
Okay. Who can undertake ESOP valuation in listed and listed company?
Who can undertake as in?
Who can undertake ESOP valuation in unlisted and listed company?
So ESOP valuation in both the cases, for ESOP valuation, it is to be done by an independent valuer, but again, industry practice is to be getting it done from a merchant banker. And in case of the valuation for the perquisite, it is mandatory to be done by a merchant banker.
Okay, okay. When 409 evaluation is required?
So whenever a company has any, whenever a company is planning to issue common shares to its stock options, it is required before that. Once every 12 months, it is required for private companies in US, and it is also required when there is any material event or a transaction that is happening, like a M&A activity or a major fundraise. At that time, it is required.
Okay. What is the role of merchant banker for income tax purpose in case of unlisted company?
It is required for valuation for the tax perquisite purpose whenever the employees exercise their shares.
Okay. Okay, Anshuma, what is better for foreign employee, cash or ESOP?
I think as addressed by Moini ma'am, because and even the practical industry over which we have got, it is the ESOPs are little practical challenges are being faced. So companies may consider giving even cash-based incentives.
Okay, whether investing ESOP can be reclassified and issued to employee, Moini?
Yes, so if the ESOPs are lapsed from the hands of any of the grantee, then yes, it come back to the pool and it is available for the fresh grant to any other new employee.
How can we issue ESOP to foreign national advisor if he is not an employee but he can give a non-executive director?
If he is a non-executive director in the company, then you can offer the ESOPs to him. But if he is only the consultant or advisor, he is not an employee, then you can't. So being a director, you can give, otherwise not.
Okay, so I think we have covered all the questions. Now it's time to close because we have already exceeded 5-7 minutes also. So friends, today's topic was very interesting. As you have seen, the way Mohini, Anshuma and Sanchit has covered the aspects flawlessly. And then the two speakers from the industry, Mukesh and Irfan, those who have handled various cases. I hope that it will be useful for all of you. In case any question is pending, not answered, or you want some consultation, you can directly talk to Mohini at indiacp.com, and she will reply to you. This webinar we are doing for the benefit of the corporate world, and the professional, so they can update themselves for the new developments. As I told you in the beginning, the ESOP is one of the tools to create a longevity of the employee, to reduce your cost of employee, and to create a feeling of ownership, and then it will enhance the productivity. So this is not just a legal document, but it is multiple way. It has started with legal way, or not in a way. It has started by startup because that was popular, because they were not having money, so they were paying this. And after that, when the company has becoming good unicorn and they got a funding, then these people, those who got the ESOP, they become the crorepati's. Now, this is another way to becoming rich, another way of to becoming the owner with legal and ethical way. And this concept of ESOP slowly is taking traction. And no doubt it requires taxation issue, it requires international law, because if there's a foreign national, then it has a SEBI law, it has a company law, it has a accounting standard, it has a taxation, it has multiple other challenges also, but these challenges can be manageable and you can maintain this. Today is a good day. We have launched our US office for this work, and I hope that the program was useful for everyone. Before closing this, I will take 30 seconds from everyone. Anshuma, your call on this topic.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Definitely, I think this was one of the challenging topic for us also to find out the key aspects and what is the objective of the company, considering even the shareholders, and what are the critical aspects which we daily are dealing. And I think Moini ma'am will knows ki how challenging it has been to consider and address even the proxy point of view, majorly for in application or to get the ESOP resolutions implemented. So I think, yes, it was definitely needed. Also from the point of view of the regulatory updates, because we are seeing there are many not clarity in terms of how the process needs to be done. So I think it was, yes, this, I think it would have been helpful for companies to understand this better.
Okay. Sanchit,
So I think in today's world, ESOPs are more than equity. They are a philosophy of shared ownership, driving accountability, retention, and long-term value. The future really belongs to businesses that grow by growing together. And giving ESOPs to employee is aligning them and letting them feel the shared ownership and the vision of the promoters with the employee.
okay. Moini,
I say that ESOPs, don't take ESOP as that you are offering something over and above and things to your employees. Make it a part, make it a habit or a culture of your organization that you are making them a partner in your organization, because it may go beyond what the employee is thinking of in terms of when he is getting any salary or incentives. So I have that thing that every corporate should think of in giving this. I think it will create a good governance and the employee-friendly culture in the organization.
thank you very much, Moini. Thank you very much. I told India 360-degree ecosystem I have mentioned in the beginning. We have required government promotion, and we require a liquidity platform provision. These are the two big challenges. Then employee literacy and adoption brief. That is also another, but this is better than this. And then we require scheme innovation, payroll integration, and tax efficiency. These are coming under 50%. Two area, valuation support and digital enablement, it is more than 60%. That is maturing in a way, but this require complete ecosystem 360-degree. With this, I thanks everyone, all participants, those who have come and attend this program, and all my speakers, Sanchit, Anshuma, Mohini, Irfan, and Mukesh Kumar. Thank you all. Thank you, participant. As I told you that our next webinar, it is on 20th June. From eligibility to execution, a step-by-step roadmap to raise fund by SME IPO. Till then, thank you. Good night. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you. Thank you.